suspend. It means that you're reading a dramatic story and it continues into chapters and you don't want to leave the book because you want to know what is the next chapter. Now it continues. This is obviously the famous story of Joseph and his brothers. A story which involves hatred and envy and jealousy and passion and compassion and every trait, every aspect of life you're going to find in this story. An unbelievable story. And it's important to study this story because it's a story of our own personal lives. As we spoke many times, Torah is not a storybook. Torah is a book of lessons. The word Torah means ora'ah. Ora'ah b'chaim, from Torat Chaim. A lesson in life from a Torah which is a living Torah. It is not just an historical description of events which took place 3,000 or 4,000 years ago. We are going back to time in order to learn what to and how to behave and conduct ourselves in today's day and age. And this is Parsha Vayeshev. The Parsha of this week has, I will tell you how many verses it has. It has 112 verses. Listen to that midrash. There's 112 verses. What is the first letter of the first verse in this parsha? Vav. And what is the second letter of this week's parsha?
Yud.
No. The second letter of the second verse, the first letter of the second verse is Aleph. And the third verse, first letter, Vav. And the fourth verse, the first letter, Vav. You know what the Medrash tells us? That in these 112 Parshiyot, with the exception of 8 verses, every verse starts with a Vav. Yes? You hear that? 112 verses. It's the only portion in Torah that every letter starts with a Vav, with the exception of 8. Says the Medrash, what is the significance of this Parsha with a Vav? Says the Medrash, Vav represents the word Vai, Voy, as they say, Oy Vei. So the Medrash says this Parsha keeps on going with one Vai after another Vai. Vai to the brothers of Yosef who threw him into the pit. Vai is to Yehuda of his daughter-in-law. Vai is to Yosef who ends up in jail. Vai, a old Parsha. And there is Vai after Vai after Vai, only tragedy after tragedy after tragedy. There is 8 verses, the Medrash says, which is corresponding to the 8th day of Brit Milah, because this is seemingly the only good story that there was Osnat, the daughter of Potipharah, which got married to Yosef, who was circumcised on the 8th day. So there are 8 verses with Adavav, corresponding to the 8th day Brit of Yosef HaTzadik. Other than that, there is only Vais and Vais and Vais and Vais. Vai is an expression of pain and stress and sorrow. And this is how the Vai works. Yosef is in jail. Vai. Yosef is being sold to Potiphar. Vai. Yosef has to deal with Potiphar's wife. Vai. The Vav keeps on coming out on every verse of the 100, more than 100 verses of this small Parsha, is all of them starting with this Vav. Ve. So obviously that it's a Medrash which brings out to light how difficult this Parsha is. Parshat Vayeshev. And this is what we are going to start. And obviously that Yosef had brothers, and the brothers were jealous of Yosef. They hated Yosef. And it says in the verse, as you all can read it together, on verse 4, page 200 or 201 in the English, Vayiru Echav, and the brothers saw Ki oto a'av haviem mikol echav, that it was he whom their father loved most of all his brothers. He loves him. He pays favorism to Yosef more than to the other children. Vayisneu oisoi, and they hated him. Velo yachlu dabro leshalom, and they could not speak in him in a peaceful manner. Hatred. No other place in the Torah do you find this idea of hatred. Not only once. Next verse. Vayachalom Yosef chalom. Yosef has a dream. Vayaged le'echav. And he relates the dream to his brother. And what does the pasuk say? What does the Torah say? Vayosifu od sno oto. And they added more of what? Of hatred to him. Hatred. Hatred. And it goes on. He had a dream, and it comes on verse 8, and he shares the dream. And what do they tell him? Vayomru lo echav, and his brothers tell him, Amaloch timloch aleinu, would you reign over us? Are you planning to be in charge on us? Are you planning to be the king over us? Vayosifu od snoto. What is sno? Sin'ah. What does sin'ah mean? Hatred. They added even more hatred. So they hated them at first, and then another dose of hatred, and yet the third time hatred. Hatred plus hatred plus hatred. This is not just jealousy. This is hatred. Nowhere else in the Torah do you find. We do have disputes in the Torah. Yaakov and Esav, you learned recently, two brothers, clearly did not like each other. Did we study about hatred? You remember any description about hatred that Esav has? A hatred to Yaakov?
He wanted to kill him.
What?
He wanted to kill him.
Doesn't mean they hated him.
Okay.
Yes. At least it doesn't talk about his hatred. He took away something from him. I don't hate you. You took away my blessing, I want to kill you. Well, at least it's not doesn't seem like an emotional, uncontrolled hatred. Yitzchak and Ishmael were also not getting along. Was the hatred? No. The first big discussion of brothers disliking each other is the first story of the Bible, the first story of the Torah, Cain and Abel.
Yes.
Did Cain hate at Hevel? Or Cain looked at Hevel and he said, I don't like the way God treats you, service, against my service. He was disappointed. He was frustrated. I'm offering cattle. He's offering the wool of a sheep. I'm offering fruit. I'm bringing a handmade, homemade goodies to God. And he's bringing some sheep wool from the shear. And Hashem accepts his over mine. So he was upset. And what did he do? He killed them. But do we know that Cain hated Hevel? There's no description of hatred, neither between Cain and Hevel, nor between Ishmael and Esav, neither between Yaakov and Esav. But here, hatred. And then you think about it, who are we talking about? We are talking about 12 kids which were all holy tribes of the house of Jacob. Cain and Abel had an excuse. God takes care of him and he rejects me. Okay? God did not reject any of his brothers. Esav was an Esav. Again, Esav. What do you expect from Esav? Not to want to kill. There's an Esav, there's an Esav, the man of the field. But Shvatim, Yehuda, should hate Yosef. Reuven should hate Yosef. Levi should hate Yosef. This is people, their life was centered around God. Jealousy, favoritism. Is it the first house that a father or a mother shows favor to one of the children? It happens in every normal home. You have a bunch of kids, especially if you have more than one. So eventually you're going to give some more attention, or at least the child thinks that you were giving more attention to one brother over them. You always babysit their children more than my children. And you invited them for supper more times than you invited us for supper. And this is a normal type of family, discussions. And what happens eventually? You have young kids. And when life brings all kinds of bigger issues than the issue whether or not your mother invited you 3 times for supper or 3 times for supper, or she made you more food, she made him more food than she made you. Life is much more busy than to be worried about those things, so you move on and you forget about it. Hopefully. So to say that you have Shiftei Ka, the tribes of God, the divine tribes, the holy people, they are going to be concerned that Yosef is being shown favor. And he got a nicer suit than theirs. We got our suits in Target, and he even got a suit in Nordstrom. Big deal. Can we imagine that this is the whole story? Obviously, anyone who reads the story of this Parsha knows that there has to be something deeper and more meaningful into this dispute to this argument and to the hatred which existed between Yosef and his brothers. This is not my question. All commentaries, if you look in the commentaries on this Parsha, everybody is asking this question. You look at Sforno. Sforno was a famous Italian commentator. It's printed in the classic Chumashim. He says, how was it? They were all tzaddikim. This is the people that their names were brought and mentioned on Aaron HaKohen's Choshen, right? The breastplate, which was carried by Aaron the priest, was the names of those very people that we are speaking about, their hatred to Yosef and their jealousy to Yosef. These are the names that the message of God came across by illuminating the letters of their names, Urim Betumim, Reuven and Shimon and Levi. These are the people. So these are the people that God remembers us by looking at their names. So those people will get together to kill their brother, he asks, and never to regret doing something like that. It doesn't make any sense. He had a dream. Who cares? What's a dream all about? What's a dream? We spoke many times. The Gemara says also, Chalomot lo ma'alim velo moridim. Words of dreams, don't pay attention. Most of the dreams you don't have to pay attention to. You think about something all day, you're going to end up dreaming about it at night. It doesn't mean there's a message. That clearly does not mean there's a message from above. The message is stop thinking about it. The message is not, perhaps, you're dreaming and there's a divine, idea over here. Pay attention. You were just told that that you're 8 months pregnant and you know that you're not pregnant at all. A lady asked me, she got a dream that she's 8 months pregnant. She knows she's not. What does it mean? I said, one thing for sure, it doesn't mean that you're pregnant at 8 months. Okay? Because you're not, right? What else does it mean? Nothing. You probably spoke all day about someone else being pregnant. Or you read an article 2 days earlier. You feel in your you fill in your your existence with all kinds of stories and imaginations and fears, and eventually, during the day, they don't let cross the so-called the consciousness of reality, because it's not true. But at night, when you're more relaxed, the brakes are a little off and the boilers are a little up in, and it becomes a part of your experience. The Gemara said. So Yosef had a dream. Big deal. He had a dream. So imagine my brother comes to me. I had a dream. What's the dream? That you are bowing down to me. What am I going to tell him? What I would tell my brother, I'm very happy you slept good last night. You had dreams. Keep on dreaming. Keep on dreaming. There are people who dream but not sleeping. There are people who sleep but not dreaming. There are people who sleep and dream. I had a beautiful story about the famous Rav of Panovich. Panovich was a city in Lithuania. They had a very Jewish city. They had a yeshiva there. After the war, the whole city was destroyed during World War II. And the Rabbi of Panovich, his name was Rav Kahneman. He survived, he was in Israel, and he was looking to rebuild the yeshiva in Israel. And it took vision, 1944, 45, 46, 47, to go and rebuild a yeshiva after the Holocaust. It took a lot of courage and vision. But he went out with a mission to build a yeshiva. He traveled to America, he traveled to England, he traveled to raise money to purchase a property, to build a yeshiva. And he actually ended up building a beautiful, magnificent building called the Yeshiva of Panovich, which is in the city of Bnei Brak. I heard from someone once that when he was in England and trying to solicitate one of the community members about his project, open a yeshiva, talks about students are going to come and learn and daven. And this layman tells him, Rebbe, you're dreaming. What are you talking about? Yeshiva students, there's no more yeshiva students left. The yeshiva students all burned in Treblinka, in Auschwitz, in Dhaka. There's no yeshiva students. What are you building a yeshiva for? You're dreaming! The Panovich Rav said, listen, I might be dreaming, but I'm not sleeping. I might be dreaming, but I'm not sleeping. It's a different type of dream. It's a dream, it's a vision, nothing to do with sleep. And that's a dream which eventually can become sure. Usually dreams, the typical dream, when people get up in the morning, they tell you, I had a dream. You really, in most cases, you don't have to be concerned about it, especially if you can identify that somehow, somewhere, you had thought about this idea before. It was something you read in the paper, you spoke about it, thought about it. The Gemara Talmud actually tells us that there was a king. Who was the king? The king of Rome, the Kaiser of Rome. The Gemara said in Talmud Brachot, there's a few pages discusses dreams. And there was a king who came to Rabbi Yeshua ben Hanania, one of the great, very clever Talmudic sages, and he engaged in all kinds of conversation with the government officials, proving them all kinds of things about the validity and the truth of Torah. And Rabbi Yeshua ben Hanania came to visit the Kaiser, asking him for mercy for the Jews of Israel, of Jerusalem particularly. And the Kaiser turned to him and said, no, I heard that you guys are very smart. Tell me, what am I going to dream tonight? What am I going to dream tonight? Rabbi Yeshua ben Hanania said, I will tell you exactly what you're going to dream. What am I going to dream? He says, look, you're going to dream that the Persians, which were the sworn enemies of the Roman emperor, are going to take you in captivity, going to force you to graze pigs, to work in a very derogatory type of job. And that's what you're going to do, like a slave. And he described to him in very great detail how it's going to look for him. And the Kaiser got really nervous. All day thinking about it. I'm going to be captured by my enemies. They're going to put me out with the pigs. And lo and behold, it came at night, he went to sleep, and what happened?
Dream.
He dreamt about it. And he thought, ooh, Rabbi he must be a prophet. He knew exactly what I'm going to dream. Was it prophecy? Was it intuition? What was it?
Hypnosis.
Was it hypnosis?
It was paranoia.
It was paranoia, a mix of paranoia with some fantasy, and when you think about it enough, you're going to be dreaming. There's actually a interesting responsa, an halachic responsa from the Tzemach Tzedek, the third Rebbe. In the Talmud, in Masechta Yuma, talks about Yom Kippur. It's actually also brought on the Shulchan Aruch. It talks about a certain dream that a person has on the night of Yom Kippur. He should be worried a whole year about it. Probably not going to make it. Certain dream. I'm not going to tell you what it is. So then somebody apparently experienced the dream. And he was frightened. He knows what the Gemara said. And it called the Tzemach Tzedek, the third Rebbe, and he said, Rebbe, is that what's going to happen? I'm not going to make it through the year. And the Tzemach Tzedek writes him in a letter, and he says, doesn't apply to you. Why not? He said, because you knew about that Talmudic passage. So all day before Yom Kippur, you were going around worrying, what if I have the dream? So now, since you were thinking, what if, that itself caused you to have the dream. That's not the dream that the halacha refers to, that if you dream the dream, you're going to end up not making it through the year. It's only its dream which is being shown to you from above. That dream by you was not given from above. It was a result of your conscious paranoia, or Avram says, nervousness. What is if I'm dreaming about it? Clear your mind before your bedtime. You're not going to dream about it. And if you are going to dream, then you know you have a problem. We spoke previously to the years, different approaches of the dreams, and how can you identify a valid dream versus a non-valid dream. This is one of the grand rules, so to speak, the principles. The moment you can track the dream to a thought that you had in your mind, and you process something previously, then you can imagine that this is not dream other than just a physical reaction to a conscious type of or subconscious type of thoughts. Nothing to worry about. Okay? A good night. Sleep good. Yosef's brothers hear about a dream and they get all nervous. What is the dream? What does it happen? What's going on? So, as I said, this Parsha is being discussed and discussed. Today was the 20th of Kislev, continuing the 19th of Kislev. This is the Chag HaGeula, the day that the Alter Rebbe was released from prison. And that's the holiday that celebrates the victory of Hasidism and mainly the confirmation of Hasidism in our lives and our world. So I'm going to discuss it tonight from a Hasidic approach, meaning the way it's being discussed in Hasidic philosophy. The discussion is about the difference between Yosef and his brothers. Even though they were brothers, they both represented two different schools, two different mindsets, two different directions and channels how to serve God. Yosef was the opposite, complete opposite of his brothers, and the brothers were the opposite of whom Yosef was. To the point that in Hasidic philosophy they discuss a verse that we're only going to read about it in 2 weeks from now. When Yosef's brothers are coming down to Egypt, after how many years not seeing him? 22 years. They're coming to see him. It says that he recognized them and they did not recognize him. Rashi says it was to do with the beard. Joseph grew a beard in 22 years. Okay, I can understand that sometimes somebody grows a beard 22 years. It's difficult to recognize, but it's very difficult to understand that among 11 brothers, not to be anybody who recognizes Yosef, or at least has a problem with recognizing him just because of his beard. Come on. A beard doesn't give it out. Oh, there is the eyes, there is the nose. You know, there is the look that you have, a brother you can recognize after many years. Has to be more to the fact than a beard. And Hasidic philosophy says that it wasn't just a de-recognition, unrecognition because of their physical image, but rather because they each represented a different attitude and a different approach of life. And tonight we're going to discuss the difference between Yosef and his brothers. It's a dispute, it's a type of argument which is an ongoing argument. This is not meant to be resolved. It's two approaches, which each one of those two approaches are valid and true, and some have to be more Yosef-like, and others have to be more Shvatim-like. Shvatim, I mean the tribes. Let's start with what was the issue of Yosef. What did he tell his father about the brothers? So it says that he brought some information about the brothers. He said they saw them eating from an animal while it was still alive. He said that they committed adultery. He said, number 3, he said what? That they are disrespectful to the sons of the maids. Remember we learned 2 weeks ago there were the sons of Rachel and Leah, and then there were the sons of Bilhah and Zilpah, which are the maids. And somehow they rejected. And this is what Yosef comes and tells his father. This is what the Rashi says. And among the commentaries, obviously you can imagine everybody's trying to understand why would they say things like that. First of all, if it's true, so then why was he wrong? If it's not true, why would he fabricate such stories? And there's all kinds of insights. One of the beautiful insights that I learned years ago is a commentator called, a book called Parsha Drachim. It goes back to one of the commentators of the Rambam, the Mishnah Melech, great rabbi. He talks about that Yosef and his brothers, there was a halachic argument between them. I want to speak with a Hasidic argument. He makes it into a halachic argument. And he says as follows. It's interesting to know. He says that the tribes considered themselves to be the same status of Jews after the Torah was given. Even the Torah was not given yet, they carried themselves, they presented themselves with that status as halachic Jews. Joseph was in the opinion that you are really a Noachite. A Noachite. The Torah was not given yet. Your status is not Jewish. Your status is like a Noachite. With this, he explains was the argument, and this is the 3 examples I just shared with you, is really a discussion and a debate about how a Jew is supposed to conduct themselves halachically, and now a Noachite is supposed to conduct himself halachically. According to Jewish law, at which point can you take an animal and eat from it? Shechted. It has to be slaughtered, right? Biblically, it has to be slaughtered. What happens if you slaughter the animal but he's still kind of jumping. He's slaughtered. He's not going to make it. It's called mefarkes.
Conversation. Convulsion.
Conversa. Well, I mean, he's not alive anymore, but he's still not dead.
Yeah, muscle is
still moving.
Right. So are you allowed to break him into pieces and start organizing him for cooking?
No.
But then no.
1 second. Oh, very good.
No.
Here comes a certain stringency that the Noachites have over the Jews. A Jew biblically is allowed to already eat from it, meaning prepare it for cooking. You can break up the body parts and get it ready organize it for cooking. Rabbinically, we don't do it, but biblically it's kosher. A Noachite, because a Noachite is not commanded, because a Noachite is forbidden to eat from a living animal. So the stringency of a Noachite is that he can't even eat from an animal while it's still kind of jumping. So there is a stringency to that state of an animal between a Noachite and a regular Jew. So he says that's what the argument is. Joseph saw them eating from an animal and organizing the body parts of an animal before it was completely dead. Yosef, in his opinion, what is their status? Noachite. Therefore, he told his father, Dad, they're not keeping the law of Eva Minachai. I saw them eating from an animal which was still alive. In the other end, they look at Yosef and say, we are what? We are Jews. We carry that status. And the status of a Jew after the Torah was given is what? Biblically, you are allowed to eat from it. Same thing when it came to the second case. They said he told his father that they are disrespectful to the sons of the maids. In Jewish law, there's the woman that you married, who were the women that Jacob married? Rachel and Leah. What are the other two women? Are they considered wives? No. They are considered pilegesh. Pilegesh means concubine. How do you call it? Concubine. They are concubines. They are not wives. In the laws of the Noachites, since marriage means just bringing the person into your house, so then the wives and the maids are the same status. So when Joseph sees them being disrespectful to the kids of the maids, and he says, Hello, as a Noachite, your mother and the maid have the same status. They were both women that Jacob brought into his house. They are his wives. And therefore their kids have to be given the same treatment. They, in the other end, looked at themselves as Israelites after the Torah was given. So then there's obviously a difference between the woman that you marry and the woman that you just bring into the house as a maid. Understand? So you see, this is like the so-called an argument, a dispute from a halachic commentator which looked at the debate between Joseph and his brothers as an halachic debate, a legal debate. That's what led to the information, that's what led to the reason they did it, and they weren't following Joseph's and Amrut. Like I said, there's all kinds of insight into the story. We're going to speak about it a second from a Hasidic point of view. From a Hasidic point of view, you have to look at the job of Yosef and the job of his brothers. What was the jobs of the brothers? The Parsha begins, Haya ro'eh techav batzon. They were all what? Shepherds. A shepherd. What is a shepherd? Ro'eh. Hasidus says that there's a reason why our ancestors were shepherds. There is a reason why 11 of the tribes served as shepherds. A shepherd is that type of individual which stays disconnected and uninvolved in the world of business, in the world of materialism, in the world of physicality. The shepherd is in the field, in the natural feel and experience of nature. There is no cheating, and there is no lying. This is him and the sheep, the blue sky on top, looking up to heaven. The description of a shepherd, like King David being the shepherd, like Moshe Rabbeinu before he became involved with the people, a shepherd, is the one who detaches himself and keeps away from the physicality and the materialism of this world, and it keeps a consciousness of connection and awareness of God and spirituality. He's not involved in his job. He's flexible. He can take him out to eat now. He can take him out an hour later. He doesn't have to be in the office 9 o'clock. We have services till 7:15 in the morning, and that's, you can see sometimes people 8 o'clock, they are running and running, and God forbid services started a little later, and God forbid it took a little longer. And I don't blame them. They got to be in their office. They have a responsible job, and they have to be where they have to be. And you start going around, giving your faces. In Jerusalem, in a place where you're involved in life of study and prayer, so you daven 10 minutes more. If davening 60 minutes is great, davening 80 minutes is even greater. Where you rushing? I would love to spend more time to daven. The Rebbe's minyan used to start 10 a.m. 10 a.m. is the latest minyan in the Udam. People are already coming back from work in Seattle 10 a.m. Why are you starting 10 a.m.? Because why are you rushing? No, you should be in shul 7 o'clock. And you're going to sit down and study for 2-3 hours. And then you're going to go daven. That was the brothers. That was the patriarch. They were shepherds. They did not want to have to deal with this world. They didn't want to have to deal with this world. Yosef is already dreaming about what? In his dream, what does he do? Working the ground, working the fields. He's already involved in a world. And later, his whole life becomes that life. He's the one who becomes in charge of Egypt. So you know what it means to be in charge over Egypt? He's the one who has to figure out in his mind ideas of how to ensure that there is food for the next 7 years. What kind of production it is. Knowing that the whole world is going to come to purchase food from Egypt. He maneuvers all kinds of tricks that all the real estate ends up to be owned by Pharaoh. The people are being sold to Pharaoh. This is using his mind and his heart and his feel, everything in ensuring that physical accomplishments are who they are and successful. This is Yosef. So now tell me, you make a meeting, Yosef and his brothers. What is the discussion? One guy gets up there and says, the discussion is obviously what's the way to connect to God. But also people talking about. Two Hasidim get together, they talk about what's the best way to get closer to God. So comes Yehuda and he says, you want to get close to God? You got to get out of here. You got to move, you got to stay away, far, detached. Comes Yosef and he says, no, what kind of moving? You know what God wants from you? God wants you right here. He wants you in your office. He wants you to sit right next to Pharaoh and show to Pharaoh that you are a godly man while being occupied with all those worldly things. Whether you are a photographer, or you are a dentist, or you are a scientist, or you are Vayeshev, doesn't matter. You are a godly man. This is what Yosef says. This is what the Neshama wants from you. This is what God wants from you. There was a Jew in a Chassid. I knew his grandchildren. I knew his actually sons. His name was Mordechai Alperovich, a Hasidic Jew who came from Russia to Israel. He learned in Lubavitch, and he came from Russia to Israel in the 1930s, together with my son-in-law, Rabbi Rivkin's grandfather, Rabbi Brook, some other Hasidim, but somehow very difficult terms, they made it out in the 30s from Russia. No, he was a shochet. So he was a shochet, he lived in Yerushalayim, he was a shochet. As a shochet, Erev Yom Kippur, they all do the kaparot, you know, the chickens over the head. And he's working, and he realizes that suddenly there's a long line still. In front of him, he's going to be dizzy till Kol Nidre with the shchita. And he wonders, there were other shochatim. And then he realized that somebody, I guess, realized that he might be a little more of a sincere, God-fearing shochet than others. They gave him a name like, oh, this shochet, this tzaddik came out of Russia. So they all lined up, wanting him, Rabbi Chaim, to be their shochet. That was the last day he shecht in his life. He said, oh, I'm not going to interfere with anyone's jobs. I'm not a shochet anymore. There was at that time a company in Israel called Solel Boneh, a famous company. They were in charge of creating the roads and, construction projects. Then it was still Palestine. And then Israel. But the company was before Israel became a country, right? Solel Boneh was a much older country. Company. No, he said, I'm going to get a job in Solel Boneh. And he came and he worked hard and he picked up rocks and moved, rocks from the roadside and trying to make Israel into a country. It was a difficult job, but he was a very sincere man, a very special man. And the boss saw him working so hard and said, I have a job for you. Let me give you an upgrade. You look like a sincere man. You're going to work in the office. You know what it meant to work in an office versus working on the feet with your hands? It was like heaven and earth. First of all, this is the hot days in the summer. You stand under the sun, you cooking and getting barbecued while schlepping rocks and stones. In New York City, in an office, I don't know if there was air conditioning, but at least maybe there was a fan or some windows or some type of coolness. They gave him a job. He has to organize papers and help the accountant. Goes by a week or two, and Rabbi Chaim tells the boss, I want to go back to my rock collection. So everyone's looking at Rabbi Chaim. Rabbi Alperovich, what? Everyone is dying to get a job you have. What are you doing? Something like this. As long as I was working on the road, I was working very hard in my hands. But my mind was clear. I was able to think about Hasidus. I was able to think about Torah. I was able to think about God. Because the work, the type of job it is, it doesn't involve your brain at all. It doesn't involve my heart. It just needs my hands. So I worked hard and I was sweating and I was killing myself, but my mind was above the water. Now you gave me a job in an office job. I have to count numbers. I have to start using my cup. I have to, my head has to be. I'm ready to work the type of job that I am running the job, but not that the job should run me. When I'm working in the office, the job is running me, not me running the job. I'm going back to the rocks. This was really, as the Rebbe always said, Hasidus always says, that this was the argument between the Shvatim, the tribes, and Yosef HaTzadik. How much do you get involved in civilization? How much do you integrate in civilization? How much is your relationship with materialism? Most of them said, no, we got to stay away. Yosef HaTzadik was the one who said, no, let's try to bring God into Egypt. Let me raise a child like Menashe, like Ephraim, as we're going to see. Like I said before, this is the one continuous story for the next 4 weeks. In Egypt! And if you ask, what is God? He has more pleasure. Hasidism brings all kinds of sources from Midrash and Psukim in Tanakh, which clearly emphasize the desire and the appreciation and the love that God has by seeing and watching people elevating His world the way the world is. He did not create a world just for shepherds. There is one tribe of Levi. They were the shepherds. They were busy, locked up in their room, studying, etc. But the rest of us, what are we expected? Yes, it sounds something much nicer to be like a shepherd. Take a little flute into the field, nice weather, and sitting with the sheep and watching. Once in a while, vacation is good, but this is not life. Life is clearly, like we said before, life is life that we live. The Alter Rebbe speaks in Tanya, as I said, today is the day of the Alter Rebbe. The Alter Rebbe breaks it down and he says in Wood of Kabbalah that the area of life is divided into 3 categories. 3 categories. He says like this. A, there is the world of holiness, the world of Kedusha. This is the world that you learn Torah, the world that you do all the mitzvahs. This is the so-called the kosher, ideal world. This is one area. Then there is a second world. What is the second world? The forbidden world. The world of Klippa, in the terms of Kabbalah. What is this world? The world that you keep away from, the forbidden, the one that you reject, and it's only there to overcome the temptation of coming in contact with it. It's there in order for you to get up and say, no, I don't want to have anything to do with you. This is the second one. It's called Shalish Klippas Atmeyos, the 3 evil Klippas. And then there is the third world. This is the intermediary, not completely in the world of holiness, and not completely in the world of darkness. This is the general world. Our world, our office in Microsoft, is it kosher? Is it treif? What is it? It is a mix. And what you are going to do, you are going to release the holiness and show in that reality that there is a God in this world too. You're going to go and get a job and earn money and give money to tzedakah. 10%, 20%, right? I'm sitting with this Yid Abraham lately, we're learning a book. All discussions, how much do you give? Someone told me, says, Rabbi, God is a very good partner. First time I hear someone saying God is a good partner, nice to hear. I said, really, what happened to you? He says, such a good partner, such good terms. Make a deal. He allows me to keep 90% to myself. He only wants 10%. Where do you find such a partner?
Usually it's 50-50.
Not even 50-50. Not 60-40. He tells me, keep 90% to yourself. Somebody lost his wife recently. I called him just to speak to him. He tells me it's by a lawyer. I said, what are you doing by the lawyer? He says, discussing my end of life. kids, I said, listen, I just want to tell you, without any philosophical discussions, remember, you leave everything to your kids. Everything you should give them. Just 10% make sure you leave the synagogue. So first he was like, wow, what a generous rabbi. He lets me give my kids 90%. Then he thought about this. Really, 10% to the synagogue? I don't think it's a lot. You don't think it's too much? Yes, Tamaisa. Here Ayeva Yid tells me, I'm such a good partner. I got the best deal in my life. He gives me everything, and he only wants 10%. He tells me, keep 90% to yourself. And then this is what happened. What's the point? The point is that this 90 versus 10%, this is the life of reality. This is the life that Yosef HaTzadik shows us the way in this Parsha, the next week's Parsha, and the 3 weeks Parsha, how he's able to introduce godliness even to this world which is seemingly completely physical and material. That's what he's going to show. And for the brothers, that was too much. That was too much. This was in practice, practical. Matter of fact, in the Gemara, there's already such a discussion. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, famous Gemara, he walked out of the cave. He couldn't handle seeing people going to work. His eyes became like two fire streams, and he saw people in the field. Next thing you know, the field went up into fire. And they had to send them back to the cave for another year to calm down. Meaning he came into the reality, to the same reality and consciousness of the patriarch. He couldn't face Olamaz anymore. Obviously, you have to learn. Obviously, we must learn. But at the same time, going to work is a mitzvah. Being involved in the world is just as a mitzvah. Don't take it as an exemption from learning and from davening. But on the other hand, don't be discouraged if you feel that I can't give my days completely to God. You are giving it to God through your job, through your office work. This is what God wants from us. He wants us to take a world, as Alter Rebbe in Tanya speaks a lot of times, he wants us to take a physical world and bring godliness into this world where it is, right here. Let my paycheck know that I am working so I should be able to send my kids into a Jewish education system, I should be able to give tzedakah, I should be able to live a life of a healthy human being so I can go to shul and I can keep Shabbos and I can keep kosher. This is life. This is the reality of life. We are all Yosef Heights. Like in Tehillim, you have the pasuk, Ro'ei Yisrael ha'azina, noheg katzon Yosef. God is called, is leading us as sheep, and we are the sheep of Yosef. Why Yosef? Says exactly that, because without Yosef we wouldn't survive this world. Yosef HaTzadik allows us to realize that being in this world, you can still serve God while being in this world. And that's why from all the tribes is the only one called Yosef HaTzadik. Nobody has the name Tzadik. He is the righteous one. God willing, Sunday night, we are going to begin the holiday of Hanukkah. Time to light Hanukkah candles is after sunset. About 10-15 minutes after sunset is when you light it. But even if you didn't do it then, you do it a little later. But don't do it before sunset.
Later is fine, right? Later after Hanukkah celebration.
Later after at night is fine. Yeah, it's fine as long as people are still up and. Yeah.
So what time is sunset?
What time is sunset these days? Usually it's around 4:15.
But we'll be Redmond, right? Because we will.
You're gonna light those. Everyone is invited for public menorah lightings. But I want to make a disclaimer. The public menorah lightings are there to publicize the miracle to the world, to ourselves, and to a part of the mitzvah. But it doesn't exempt you from your personal obligation to light the menorah in your own house too. You light the menorah in your house, either before the public menorah lighting or after the public menorah lighting. We're going to have a public menorah lighting in Redmond Town Center at 5 o'clock Sunday. And there's going to be also a public menorah lighting on Monday night at 5 o'clock at Bellevue Downtown Park. You're all invited to come and join.
How about Kirkland?